Lost myself. Oh, I'm live. Well, hello.
Oh, is this thing on?
Is this on? Hello. Welcome, everyone, to another Pait Group and Joy of SharePoint webinar. Hope you are having a wonderful Tuesday, wherever in this fine world you happen to be. Today, my co-worker and co-host, Richard Calderon, and I will be talking about unlocking the power of the hybrid workplace. That sounds very, very fancy and very overwhelming. But in reality, a lot of us are probably, if not all the way, kind of at the cusp of being in that reality. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some ways that the Microsoft 365 tools that we know and love, I hope, and have really been investing in over the last year can ease this transition and make it better. Because I think we can all agree we've learned some lessons over the last year of what not to do. So let's talk about some things to do and incorporate into this new hybrid world. So that was a long introduction. If we have never met before, my name is Joy Apple. Social media, I'm known as Joy of SharePoint. I am so very glad that you are here with us today. I and Richard both workplace twins, right? We work for Pait Group, and we're both modern workplace strategists. I've had the pleasure of working with Microsoft products and technologies for a little over 12 years and am this year newly awarded Microsoft MVP. Richard, okay, what's your year count with Microsoft up to now?
You know, it's going on 20 plus years now, I guess, at this point. So been doing this for a while, but you know, it's never a more exciting time to be in technology. Obviously, there's so much changing all the time. So yes, it's great to be here with you all today. Thanks for joining the webinar. Happy Tuesday to you. As Joy said, we're both modern workplace strategists here at Pait Group, and we just love talking about all things Microsoft 365 related, which is why we wanted to have these webinars here with all of you. And this topic today around hybrid workplace, I mean, this is what everybody is talking about these days by far, right? With all of the offices kind of reopening now, and whether or not your company is kind of going all in and everybody's coming back to the office, or if they've come up with a strategy for, you know, doing some of both, working in this hybrid model. We just thought it would be a great conversation to have here today. So we're going to enjoy this and dive right in. We typically start off with a poll, so we're going to just do a really quick poll. Let me jump over to the poll here. This should be in the Q&A window. You can just click right on the link. It'll take you to this Microsoft form, and would certainly appreciate the responses here today. So we always ask some basics, just want to get an understanding of who's in the room here today. And then we've got a few questions just centered around today's topic. So number one, just really interested to know, has your organization created or has announced plans for a strategy for enabling hybrid work? Just interested to understand from your organization's perspective. And then a couple of questions that are really targeted towards you individually. Number one, just in terms of your role and the types of tasks you need to complete and your responsibilities, you know, given the choice, what is your preference for where you would want to work? Have you gotten comfortable with your setup at home in your home office and would like to stay at home? Are you just anxious to get back into that office environment so that you can actually interact with people physically and, you know, have those in the hallway conversations and so forth? Or maybe both. Maybe would it make sense to you to be able to work from home a few days a week, work from the office some other days of the week as well? So interested from the perspective there. And then you've heard us talk a little bit about this in past webinars, and you're going to hear a whole lot more about this from us here in the coming future around Microsoft Viva. And then so one of those specific services or tools in the Viva toolbox that's called Viva Insights. Interested to know if that's something that you have started exploring yet from a personal well-being and productivity perspective. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about those later today as well too. So let's just see what some of the results are. Okay, poll results coming in. Got a good number of IT pros in the room and one person so far from management. Welcome. In terms of the strategy for hybrid work, kind of a blend at the moment here. Some that are just flat out no, others that are unsure, which is completely expected, quite honestly. I think most companies are probably still just trying to figure out what that might look like. And then at least one person that says yes, so that's great. And then in terms of choice, not entirely surprised by this, quite honestly. So far, 0 people that are saying my preference is to work entirely in the office. So I think that's really interesting. And we're kind of neck and neck here at the moment with people who would be wanting to work either from home or still outside the office, or an option of doing both. And then in terms of Viva Personal Insights, which is an app that you can get inside of Microsoft Teams today. If you haven't done that, you should certainly give that a try. Looks like a few of you certainly have already, or I should say, no, actually, a few of you have said no, haven't tried it, but are willing. And then a few of you that have just simply said that, no, it's really not my thing. And so again, no problems about that whatsoever. But thanks so much for the responses. If you'd like to respond to the poll at any point in time, just feel free to click on that link and dive right in. Joy, any responses here that also kind of seem insightful, interesting to you?
I love the fact that, well, and it might be because we're all kind of in this techie side of the world, but yeah, we're either like, no, I like my home office. I spent a whole year getting it just right. Leave me alone. Or give me a blend. Let me be in the office when it's advantageous, when it just makes sense to be in the office, and then let me have those days where I can work from home. Me being an extrovert, having that dedicated focus time at home keeps me very productive. Whereas if I'm always in the office where you can have the office chit chat and you do that, that's maybe not so good for productivity.
Yeah, well, all part of today's topic for sure. So let's dive into that.
Let's do it. I'm going to switch things around a little bit.
Okay.
And attempt to get a share tray going. Oh, it popped out from the side. That was fun. Okay. So what the heck is the hybrid work model anyway? Consultant answer, it depends, right? There are a few different ways you could define hybrid work, but it's a blended model. Maybe your organization says, okay, you can work from home all the time, and you over here, you work in the office all the time. But it can also be, I have a typo, a blend, not a bend, a blend of on-site and remote work per individual. I actually kind of do the hybrid thing myself. I come into a co-working location about 2 days a week on my heaviest meeting days, because they've got much better internet connectivity than I have at home. The rest of the time I work from the comfort of my home office, right? And that's when I can really buckle down and focus and knock out documentation. Meeting days, I come in, utilize little booths like I'm in today. But it can also refer to workplaces where you have some employees that don't really have a desk. They're not information workers. They're not sit down and work on spreadsheets. They're out there doing things every day. Retail workers, baristas, restaurant workers, construction workers, doctors, nurses, right? It's almost a luxury in some ways to say, oh, I sit at a desk. These folks are out and about, and they need to be able to connect, to communicate, and to retrieve resources on the go. And for some of these folks that are out there, especially if you think about construction workers, we need to make it really easy and seamless for them to find that need to know critical information right now. So hybrid work encompasses all of these things. It feels kind of big and overwhelming in some ways, but let's talk about the priorities that can kind of come in for this corporate mindset of hybrid work. I stole some of this from Microsoft. We give you a link to this on one of the last slides, just resources, but we pulled a lot of information out of the March Work Trend Index. But employee well-being is one of the primary motivations and priorities behind hybrid work model, especially coming out of a pandemic, right? You've got people, maybe they can't return to work yet because their children's school's not open. Or maybe they've been one of the unfortunate folks that has been very severely impacted with the virus, and they can't return to work yet. They're not out of the woods yet, but they're able to work from home comfortably. Or maybe the corporate office isn't willing to bring everybody into a building yet. So we see these corporations really looking over the landscape of their employees and go, it just doesn't make sense from a well-being perspective to put everyone in the office. So let's talk about what a hybrid return to work looks like. We also need to look at how much time are these poor people spending in meetings day in and day out. Shout out, are you sick and tired of being in meetings all the time? We're going to talk about that quite a bit today, right? How much are we working after hours? I like during Ignite when one of the sentiments was, I feel like Richard, what was it? Do I work from home or do I sleep where I work?
Yeah.
I think that was how it was said. Is it hard for you to connect with your coworkers and your leaders and your management if you're working remotely, right? And how do we bridge that gap? Are remote workers going to be afforded the same opportunities as on-site workers? Because if you're not there bumping into the big boss on coffee break, wow, are you going to miss out on that valuable face time if you're in a very corporate environment and you're wanting to move up those rungs on that ladder, right? So physically and mentally, there's a lot of angles for this well-being thing. But then we get to our side of it, right? I say our side because Richard and I talked about this a lot. We're like, how much do we talk about like the soft skill piece of it? And how much do we talk about the tech? Because it's a blended work model and it's a blended solution. But for sure and for certain, I think the most painful thing people mentioned to us over the last year was not being able to easily get to their stuff that was on-prem. Richard, how often did you hear people complain about VPNs over the last year?
Pretty much every week.
All the time.
Yeah.
It was, VPNs were overloaded because they never were designed for everyone in the organization to use them all day long, every day. Just didn't, and we saw because of that, a lot of people just dump stuff into Teams and then figured out once they got home. We need to be able to get that real-time communication going. We need to be able to get to the stuff we need to be able to get to right now, regardless of where we sit, where we work. So remember when we all got sent home? Remember that day, that week? It was hectic. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on. I was actually in Indianapolis and on a plane home the day that Oklahoma did the shutdown. We saw a lot of people cramming stuff into OneDrive because they knew if they put it there, they could at least get to it later.
Yeah.
Heard a lot of people complaining about the VPNs. Richard, what did your meeting situation look like the week after shutdown?
Yeah, it's like suddenly everybody wants to meet and everybody wants to talk about stuff and it's all got to be done now. And it was definitely craziness, and it didn't really seem to slow down too fast, if at all. But yeah, meetings.
And Richard and I kind of have an advantage. We work remotely anyway. The only time we're not remote working is when we're actually leaving our home offices and going to a customer site. So, we kind of had a little bit of a leg up for some of this.
Yeah.
But if we've always worked in that traditional office setting, how do you communicate with your team if you're not going to do it in a meeting? You can't just go prop up against the doorway and have that conversation. Really cool graph. If the slides, what's that? Oh, okay. PowerPoint for the win. Let's switch over here and manipulate it this way. There it is. So here's the numbers of that first, from February to February. Yep, there we go. Coming into the fall. Look at those email numbers. Look at those meetings. 140% increase in meetings from February to November of 2021. That's huge. No wonder we couldn't get anything done, right? So February 2021, you close out with a 148% increase in meetings. Massive uptick in emails. Chat, awesome. Okay. Number of people working on Office documents. Okay, 66% over a year. Those are some big numbers.
Yeah.
Richard, here's your slide coming up. It felt like this everyone to a meeting now. But we didn't even have a conference room to go into. So you're staring at your screen. So going hybrid, moving forward. One of the most important things I think we can do as an organization is stop and think, does it really have to be a meeting? Richard, do you have the coffee cup that says this meeting could have been an email?
No, but I want that one for sure.
Does anybody, I'd be curious, does anybody have that coffee cup? Because I think that would be great. The new one is the one that says, I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Sit there and sip it. But does it really have to be a meeting? Can it be an email? Can it be a chat-based conversation? And Richard, when we were talking about this was your first thought, was asynchronous communication.
Yeah, I think that, just like anything else, once everybody was forced to be home or just away from the office, and then, if you went the Microsoft route, obviously it was Teams, or whether it was Zoom, or, whatever virtual meeting technology your organization was affording you to use. Once people got used to the idea that I could just, within a button click or two, set up a meeting, then the pendulum just swung really far that way. Like, I need to talk to 2 or 3 people about something even simple. I'm just going to create a meeting. And it just became kind of the natural habit, I think, for most people to do that. And unfortunately, that habit has kind of stuck around. So we end up more and more with just these meetings every day. How many meetings are you going to have on your calendar today versus tomorrow versus the remainder of the week? And so, yeah, Joy and I were really just in preparation for today's conversation thinking about what are some of the ways when we're thinking about this hybrid work model moving forward today. It's really not going to slow down or give people any more time in their normal daily schedules. If anything, it's probably going to add some complexity to schedules. So meetings is something we certainly could do better, I guess is the best way to say that. And if you just stop and think for a little bit whether or not something really does in fact need to be a meeting, or if there's some other ways that you can get the information communicated and the decisions made, then we'd like to encourage people to think about alternate ways of doing that.
Teams channels make sense, right? If we're building out our teams to mimic the way we work, then we're getting a channel to give us a place to put our work assets and our documents, and a place to talk about those things side by side. So we could go to Teams and say, hey, how's this going? Sound off, everybody. Where are we in this? That's one thing that could, instead of having a meeting, do your status updates that way. Now, I used to work in the government, and we used to joke that you can't have a meeting until you have a meeting to plan the meeting.
Right.
Right. I mean, I know that's not just the government side of the world. We all have that. But why not start that in Teams? Maybe you can at least reduce the number of meetings you need to have by just doing all the prep and chat. Announcements. We don't have to call the whole company together to make big announcements. It could be recorded and released through Stream. Put the video on the homepage as a news announcement, release it in Yammer. If we're using Viva Connections, right, that's right there as our first tab in Teams now. If you have an org-wide team, throw it in there. You could hit people a variety of places. So this way they're getting it regardless of where they prefer to work. Brainstorming in Teams and using co-authoring. Didn't do a slide of this, but when you are in Teams and you go to the Files tab, you open a document. If it's an Office document that you can edit, you can click the conversation button. You can edit that document and chat at the same time. That's pretty cool. Now, does it matter if you get up to go let your dog out because they're barking their head off? Nobody knows you're not meeting. You can get up and pace about. You're not. They say one of the things that makes you feel so strained at virtual meetings is you feel like you can't really move. Obviously, I don't suffer from that because I'm all over the place. My Apple Watch actually shows that I'm up and moving around when I'm sitting in meetings because I do this all the time. Most of us feel kind of uncomfortable using that capability. It's not a meeting, you're working and you're asking people questions and you're brainstorming at the same time. So that's pretty cool. Have you used that feature much in your day-to-day?
Which feature? Sorry.
Doing the conversation in the chat while you're co-authoring?
Yeah, occasionally when it makes sense, for sure.
Nice.
Just because it's, again, it stays attached, if you will, to the document itself inside the conversation. So it's just really nice to be able to have all that in one place.
And what's really cool about it too, I know I moved a slide ahead and I shouldn't have, is now if you ask someone a question, they give you an answer, you have a history of that next to the document. That's pretty sweet too. Pretty sweet. I feel like, Stacy, this might be a little short recording I need to do for our YouTube channel. Okay, so fine. We've explored those options. Now we know we need a meeting. Fine, it's got to be a meeting. How do we make it a better meeting where we're not sitting there rolling our eyes going, this could have just been an email, this could have been chat, why are we all here? Richard, I feel like you would shine more in this environment because you're much more organized than I am.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but it is definitely, it's not about the technology in this case. It's certainly about just trying to be more intentional and thoughtful around meetings. Something as simple as coming up with a few bullet points for an agenda. I'll be honest with you, I don't always do that myself. Sometimes I'm just thinking I got to get a meeting on a calendar, and then I'm trying to move on to the next thing on my list of things to do. But, ensuring that everybody you invite has some understanding of what the meeting purpose is for, which is always the first question I think of when somebody invites me to a meeting, is like, what's this about? Is a critical part about trying to make that meeting time really valuable. As well as knowing, who's in charge here, right? Who's planning to be the leader in this conversation and facilitate the discussion moving forward? Who's taking notes if you're planning on note taking and things of that nature? All these things, again, are not really necessarily about the tech. They're just about how prepared can you be for this precious time that we have, which has to be taken up with a meeting now.
Mm-hmm. And I think hybrid meetings are going to be interesting because we're going to have to be much more aware than we've probably been in the past, because right now they're all remote. Or maybe not now. We actually are stepping into hybrid day by day. Mm-hmm. But now for organizations that are going to embrace hybrid, which I feel is the wise way to go, right? Leave those options open. Every meeting, you're going to need a conference room for the people that are on site and a Teams link for the people that are not. Right, we're gonna have to make sure both are present. Leading up to the pandemic, so many times you see an email invitation go out and they go, oh, wait, so-and-so's on travel today. Someone get them the number. Can they call in? Do we have a bridge? Have we done that? Right?
Yeah, that is exactly what I remember about meetings before. Was like everybody's in the office. Well, we should say most are in the office or having a meeting in this conference room, and then you realize that one or two people are away or whatever. Mm-hmm. and exactly what you just said, just scrambling to put together a conference bridge so that they could dial in. Let's see, is Joy still there? You guys can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I know it locked up there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you are, Joy.
Okay. Definitely locked up. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let me get back.
Went like a statue there for just a second or two, but.
So wait, Joy's sitting still. That's not normal.
Definitely not normal.
Not normal. Okay, let's get this going. Yeah, we are having major storms here, so I'm gonna blame that. Okay, now I'm gonna swap. She said optimistically. It's not swapping. That's fine. I'll play this little game.
I can always slide and share if you want to slide on my end. Joy, it's up to you.
I think I got it.
Okay.
See if it'll swap now.
There we go.
Ooh, magic.
Good. Looking good.
Pardon the interruption, folks. Okay. And do meetings really have to be an hour?
Who came up with that anyway?
I want to know the same thing. Whose idea was that? Because usually we wait 3 or 4 minutes to make sure everybody's there. Then we chit chat, which is great. I love the social aspect of it. But you know, if you only have an hour to get something, or if you only have like 30 minutes to get something done, you can do it. You don't always have to take the hour.
Yeah.
There's been recommendations about ending meetings early. Richard, you said you were reading about starting meetings late. I veto that idea, but it might work for some people.
Sure.
My new normal, and I have every meeting set to end 10 minutes early. If that meeting is scheduled for an hour, it's a lie. It's really 50 minutes. It's going to end. And I love that Teams now has the banner that pops up that says, you know, this meeting is going to end in 5 minutes.
Yes.
I love it. But now, if someone wants a meeting with Joy, and or I'm trying to configure that meeting and get it all coordinated, I set it for 45 minutes.
Love it.
I've had a handful run over, but very few.
Yeah, I love this concept because from all of our coworkers who do this, and then even a number of our customers that have adopted this model now, I have to say, whenever I get a meeting invite for like a 25-minute meeting of some sorts, I'm just thrilled to be able to join that call. Quite honestly, it's like, okay, I know we're gonna get in, it's gonna be to the point, we're going to get some decisions made, and then we're gonna move on to other things, and it's just great. Those 1 hour meetings that, you know, come my way still just, okay, I'm dreading if we don't really have an understanding as to what we're actually trying to accomplish. And so I just think it's great. It's a great way of doing things for meetings.
And you know, you're going to get stuff done. It's like food. If you have a huge buffet of food and you've got twice as much food as the people there need, you're going to stuff yourself, and so is everybody else. But when people look and they're like, oh, do we have enough? We limit ourselves. It's the same thing with time, right? We use the amount of time we have. If we have a lot, we're going to use it up. If we have a little, we're going to make the most of it. So I've got on the screen some homework for everybody. If you've never done this, now this is from Outlook on the web, because I don't use the desktop client anymore, but it's still there under your settings, your calendar settings, under events and invitations. I do like the 15-minute reminder. That's been there forever, but I do have mine set in meetings early if it's set for an hour or longer. Just do it. Try it. I actually got called out. Our friend Jay Leask over at AvePoint, he said, well, that's very bold. 10 minutes. I'm only willing to do 5. I was like, be bold.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I love getting those meetings from Joy that are for 45 minutes only, and it's just like, yes, you know, there's going to be at least some time maybe for getting some coffee refill or a bathroom break before the next call that starts on the hour. You know,
yes,
just very thoughtful.
Our project manager, she's like, does it need to be an hour? I'm like, no, nope, we'll get it done. Now, if we really need an hour because it's going to be a really in-depth demo or something like that, then by all means, we'll go an hour. But I mean, get it done, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
My only thing about this method, just being somebody who's a little particular with the way things look and all, is it just looks a little odd in your calendar. You know, you see your calendar view and you see the blocks per hour, each hour, and so forth, and then you've got a little tiny sliver of white space right there after your meeting because you've got like the 10-minute break or whatever kind of thing. So that's the only thing I need. You know,
I have a solution for that. If you start running the 15-minute meeting model, you can have your calendar display the hours in 15-minute blocks.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't split one of the 30-minute blocks. It just takes up 3.
That's a great idea.
It works. It works for me. Okay, let's focus just a little bit more on the hybrid meeting situation. Again, this goes back to the planning the meeting, but again, we want to make sure that everybody's accounted for, that there's an agenda. We talked about that. stick to the time. This is kind of an interesting thought. So if you're starting early, starting late or ending early, I think that's how that works. Make sure that's communicated, especially for your online workers. If you're on site and you get into a conference room and it's empty or there's only one other person there, you're like, oh, I'm early. But if you join a meeting early and there's nobody there and you sit there for 5 minutes, am I supposed to be here? Has it been canceled and nobody sent it out? So communicating the time, if you choose to manipulate that in your settings, could be a really big deal. And another good reason to end those meetings early is just because how taxing on the brain it can be for back to back to back to back to back virtual meetings. And I think we all learned that coming out of the pandemic for sure.
Yeah. Well, this should have just been around all this time, quite honestly, and nobody really thought to try it with this much intent. Yeah. But you think about the in-person conference room meetings. How many times do you have it blocked from one team to another team to another team, hour after hour, and that group of people is standing outside the door, and if there's a little window, the conference exactly, and kind of peeking in. And sure enough, somebody in the meeting is going like, well, it looks like we're about to get kicked out of here. It's just, we could have avoided all that, and hopefully will now avoid all that moving forward. If you just end your meetings a few minutes early, because then everyone can get up, leave the room, the next group can come in, sit down, get stuff settled, get their virtual meeting also ready to go. So there's lots of benefits, I think. Mm-hmm. If we haven't just hammered that point home now, there's lots of benefits to having shortened meetings.
Yep. And I read some people talking about the hand raise feature, and it occurred to me literally like at 9 o'clock last night to add it to the slide, requiring the hand raise feature for remote and on-site people during a meeting. So that way you're in person, especially if you're in person and leading the meeting, they're not necessarily getting the favoritism. Oh yeah, go ahead, Joy, what did you have to say? Oh, Richard, yeah. Right, the people online are also raising their hand. People in the room are raising their hand physically. So everybody has that chance to be seen and to speak. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one that, as more and more people are getting back into the offices or doing hybrid work and are engaging in these hybrid meetings, because I have to say, one thing that I feel like I benefited from in having all of these it was simply the only way you could have meetings over the past year was through an online meeting. But I really benefited from just the simplicity of, if I was meeting, new team members or a new customer for sure for the first time, I just took for granted the fact that their name was going to be displayed under their video feed, or at least if they weren't showing their video, at least I could see their name. And so it was just a simple way for me, who tends to be terrible with remembering people's names, to always be able to address them directly by name, even after having only met them in this one meeting. And that's something that just doesn't naturally occur during physical meetings in a conference room, where people are all sitting around the table for the first time. And I kind of wish, in a way, you had like a name tag like across your forehead or something that I could, I would just easily remember. Yeah,
I would cheat in my OneNote and put the names in order of around the table.
Yeah.
But it didn't always work well because that can go fast. Yeah, it's like a superpower, being able to see the name and the circle light up.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So let's talk about the tools for the employee experience. Richard brought this up when we were planning this webinar, and it's so true because we have these mobile apps. But mobile doesn't just mean you're using it in the car or on a walk or, on the go. There's a lot more to it because those mobile apps are there to provide any device access for deskless workers, first line workers, people that don't sit down at a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day. Those mobile devices on tablets and smartphones are where they work. So it's just their app. It's not necessarily a mobile app. Hybrid workers, sometimes we work from home, sometimes we work in the office, or what have you. they get that same seamless experience from the variety of applications that Microsoft 365 has provided, regardless of the device, except Stacy, you know, occasionally for our friends that use Macs, right? It's a different way of thinking about things, but like the Outlook mobile app and the Outlook web application is going to give me a pretty much seamless experience. The only difference is the way the content renders on the screen, right? So consistency, regardless of location. The Teams mobile app, oh my gosh, I have to say, I think the Teams mobile app was the first app that just came out and was good. It was so good. But it lets us stay connected regardless of if I sit at a desk or not. I've got access to my team members. The Yammer mobile application gives me that want to know access to people, to my areas of learning and my communities. And then the SharePoint mobile app gives me the ability to stay informed with news and announcements and to find content all over the place, regardless, again, of where I am or what devices that I use. Viva, right? It's the first sub bullet point there. Viva Connections lets us bring intranet communication into Teams, which we've always kind of tried to do using tabs and pages with news and all that, but now it's official. It takes a little bit of work to get that set up, and we provide a link in another slide or two. I think I do. If not, we'll put it in chat of how to set up Viva Connections so you can use it inside of Teams. But the Teams app is going to give you access to your intranet, your files, those real-time communication screens. Our frontline, first-line workers get the ability to also get to their content on it, track tasks by planner and to-do, use shifts to see their schedules, swap shifts, and communicate seamlessly in real time. I love the Teams mobile app. It's probably my go-to app. Richard, which one do you use the most?
Teams mobile by far, every single day in some way, shape, or form, without question. And then definitely the to-do app, but you know, that's a whole other webinar. We've talked about that many times.
Yeah.
And technically I could use the tasks app in Teams, but I just get around faster in the to-do app.
Okay, that's fair. We've got our SharePoint mobile app. I'm going to say this, and I know I'm Joy of SharePoint, but this is probably one of the least frequently used mobile apps that I use, because now I get to my Teams content that I work on, or my team content that I work on in Teams. So I don't really need to navigate the SharePoint app to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the great things about the SharePoint mobile app is when news is published on those communication sites, if I'm consuming that news and I follow that site, I'm going to get a push notification on the mobile app. So make sure I'm in the loop on important news that's rolling out in the organization.
Definitely, for a number of customers of ours that have really kind of embraced that news publishing model, you know, whether it comes from a communication site or a team site for that matter, as long as it's news to which you have access because you're a member of the site or a visitor of the site, then yeah, being able to just get that news feed on the go through the SharePoint mobile app is really convenient.
Yeah, definitely. And then of course our Yammer app. I don't roll my eyes anymore when we talk about Yammer. So I've grown as an individual over the past year because it clicked. It made sense for me. But that's where we put all our community areas of learning and things like that inside, or areas of interest inside of Yammer. They can get to that content in the mobile app. Kat, you know, one of our newest members of the Pait team, she's in the Yammer app all the time. Right? She's being very social and she interacts with folks inside of Yammer all the time. And it lets you engage socially with your internal network, which as we approach hybrid, that's going to be critical. Regardless of if we're on site or at home, we can get to that content.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, just kind of summing up these slides around the mobile apps, is that, you know, in the new hybrid workplace or the now hybrid workplace, having that ability to stay connected or, you know, find information or find people, really, regardless of where you are in the office, you might be, you know, on the third floor and your desk is on the second floor, or maybe you're down in the hallway or what have you. But, you know, being able to easily chat with someone or respond to an email or read a Yammer post and then like and reply, because you basically have that phone with you all the time. At least I know I do. That's really, I think, what brings that value of the mobile app into this hybrid model. Because one thing that my wife actually many years ago now it sort of changed my way of thinking about this is, we were all home one day and I don't remember what was going on, but all of a sudden I get a text message on my phone and it's from my wife, and I'm like, where are you? And she says, I'm upstairs. And I'm like, why didn't you just come down and say to me? But she didn't think her go-to was, I'm just going to text this to you. And I'm like, that just, the light bulb went on. It's like, it doesn't really matter if you're here physically or if you're, miles apart because someone's working from home and someone's in the office. That ability to have that mobile app is just going to let you stay that much more connected. And so I think it's just an important thing to consider. If you're not using the mobile apps yet to the full advantage, you really should start giving it a shot.
Oh, and being able to use the GIFs and the stickers and all that when you're communicating with your team, it's engaging. It definitely lets you see a side of the personality that you don't see in just text-based communication.
Or even face-to-face sometimes.
Or even
yeah.
Yeah, some of our more stoic developers will pop something in and you're like, oh, hello, I see you.
That was hilarious.
It's great. But with great power comes great responsibility. And here's the Spider-Man and Uncle Ben slide. Just because you can stay connected 24/7 and have that seamless experience and work 24/7 doesn't mean you should. I find myself when I'm talking to clients or I'm doing training, I'm like, yeah, you got your internet in your pocket. It's always within. Is that a good thing? This year has really opened up some eyes to the reality of burnout. So don't forget to disconnect. I actually started creating this slide. This bullet point is real. 7 o'clock in my Jeep on the way to dinner with my husband last night. I was like, but I had an idea, right? Then I got home and I put the picture to it and all that. But yes, the mobile apps, the web applications make it so easy and everything's just there. It's like as soon as I closed the Office application on my phone, I booted up my computer and there it was, right where I left off. Beautiful. But we still have to disconnect. We still have to step away. We still need to have boundaries between work and home. If that doesn't bother you and you're fine with it and you could stay plugged in 30 hours a day if you have that option, that doesn't mean it's healthy for those around you, right? This is where the soft skills have to meet the tech skills.
Yeah, definitely personal well-being. If you can try to make a habit of finding time to disconnect, certainly going to be beneficial for you without question.
Absolutely. And this is where I know some of you are probably starting to roll your eyes when you hear Viva, because it's really quite the buzzword right now. Good stuff is coming. Connections bring that corporate information right into your intranet. I've got a slide for that next. Insights. Okay, don't roll your eyes at this because I did when I wrote it. Find focus in your day. That sounds kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not technical at all, right? We kind of are like, oh my gosh, whatever, give it up, lady. But when you're jumping from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting and you don't have time to take that break, if you can literally squeeze in 1 minute, and I'm not kidding, try the breathing thing that's in Insights, it will make a difference going into that next meeting. And I didn't think it would, but it does. Insights gives managers a way to make sure their team is not, what is it? Burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I did it. It's anonymous information. So like Stephanie, my boss, isn't looking at the report going, oh, Joy was working on PowerPoint slides until 9 o'clock last night. She doesn't know that, but she can see that she had team members that were working outside of their normal office hours. And if she needs to, she can pull the team together and go, you know, are we short on resources? Is there something going on? Is everybody doing okay? And the virtual commute can help you practice ending your day. I tried to flesh that sentence out more, but that really, for me, that speaks to my habit. End your day.
Mm-hmm.
Even if not everything's not done, stop.
And everything will never be done is probably the thing to resolve, you know, yourself to, right? It's just the work will always be there tomorrow, you know, so find a way to, and this is hard, it's not easy, but find a way to encourage maybe yourself, if you will, to let yourself kind of wind it down if at all possible. And then again, just speaking for myself personally, I mean, that's super hard for me to do because I'm always thinking about if I can just get one more thing and one more thing, and next thing you know, I've worked on 5 more things. But yeah, putting it to practice just like anything else is part of it.
You know, we had our weekly stand-up yesterday morning and we were talking about it. And Kat said, well, you know, I've got mine set for 6, but I find myself, it's still 6:10, it's this, and I never get around to doing the virtual commute because I'm not ready to stop yet. I have mine set, I start work earlier and end it a little earlier, just so my husband and I have similar schedules. Same, it's like, oh, not yet, not yet, not yet. But I think the whole point is, no, really, go have family time, go take a walk, go walk your dogs, go step away from your computer, even if you come back later. Take a minute, step away. Learning, I think Viva Learning is going to be a very, very, very valuable asset going forward. That way, as we start to take the learning we do internally, and even third party, if you have third party vendors that you work with for learning and ongoing education in your organization, push that through to your users through Viva Learning, regardless of if they're on a retail shop floor, a home office, or an office on the top floor of a skyscraper. They get a consistent experience, have access to all the training materials you provide. So here's the picture. This is how Pait Group has done it. We've got Viva Connections right here. It's this very top. Where's my magnifying glass here? It's this very top button that sits now above activity. And we've got our news. There's all of our birthdays. Yay, office hours. Oh, look at that. I'm old. 5 years. We're going to be making these slides available to you so we can get to you these links for getting connections into your environment. And then here's a little, just click through Viva Insights from, this is my good evening, it's a great day, stay connected, right? Do you need to set up a one-on-one with these folks? And hey, do you need to block some personal time so you can actually get work done tomorrow instead of sitting in meetings all day long? And this is where it wanted me to do my virtual commute yesterday, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, I think for those of you that responded in the poll that maybe it wasn't your thing, or if you haven't tried it yet because you're just on the fence, you know, definitely you can just install it, just have it there as an app in Teams, and just click through. Actually, if you set those reminders, then every day it'll chat at you and kind of, you know, let you know that, hey, are you ready to start your virtual commute, just like Joy said, and do you want to reflect on how are you doing today? I think that one actually is really interesting because it takes all of like 2 seconds to basically go and indicate how are you feeling today. And, you know, if anything, it's just maybe interesting to be able to look back on the trend of where you were feeling in terms of your mindset and, you know, were you doing okay? Were you having a good day? Were you having a really rotten day on any given day? How did that impact your productivity and your ability to focus? I just think it's a really interesting thing to have right here, just basically at your fingertips in Teams. So I would encourage you all to just go out there and just give it a try.
Yep. Like Friday, I had 7 hours of meetings. That was me Friday. You know, but today I spoke for a community group this morning. I'm doing a webinar today. That's me today, right? And seriously, take a break, spend 1 minute to breathe. Just try it. I feel like that Geico commercial with the raccoons. Just try it. It really can, surprisingly, make a difference. All right. Resources. Again, we're going to make the slides available. The work trend report, really good information in that for March. Really. I've read it like 3 times, and every time I see something new. Those mobile apps we talked about, that could be scary. It could be very scary, especially if you're an organization that's not really embraced letting people walk out of the office with, access to work stuff. Looking into the device management in Microsoft 365, there's a lot of good stuff there. Common sense, security. And then also our Pait YouTube channel. We record all of our webinars. They go on there. We've got other little tutorials and like 2-minute videos on how to do super neat stuff in the product stack. So we've got access to all that good stuff there. What am I forgetting, Richard?
I think you got it covered.
Wow, fantastic. Does that mean we can take the rest of the week off?
Yes, please. Just
Stephanie's out of town. I think we can. All right. Well, this brings us to the end of our webinar. I hope this has helped kind of get the thoughts going on ways to approach hybrid considerations to make. This will not be the last time we get together to talk about ways to make work seamless. Some people on site and some people remote. But thank you for taking the time and sitting down with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much. Definitely reach out to us. We love when everyone would connect with us. Either you can reach out by email, certainly chat at us or tweet at us rather on Twitter. And those QR codes actually take us directly to our LinkedIn profile. So feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well. So thanks so much for joining the webinar today. Looking forward to talking with you next time.
Bye.